Currently I'm a medical writer, so I write for pharmaceutical companies. So I write in clinical trials of new drugs that are being developed for all kinds of diseases, mostly cancer. Love it. Especially working in cancer, there are so many new advances being made all the time. I was always interested in science at school. I found biology easy. I always aced the exams. I went to Catholic schools and they taught me evolution in school. And nobody ever pointed out that, in fact, I wasn't allowed to be a scientist if I believed in God. I never really realised that believing in evolution meant that I couldn't believe in God. So from that point of view, I was very naive, and I never questioned it. And then when I was old enough to realise that, in fact, evolution wasn't right with me believing in God, by that stage, I guess I didn't want to look for the evidence in case it disproved that God didn't exist. So I just didn't want to know. There was a huge project, took a number of years, called the Human Genome Mapping Project. And that project set out to identify every single gene in the genome. And as part of that, they realised that, in fact, once they got the sequence, and they thought, well, you know, there are less genes, and the rest of this DNA doesn't seem to have any function. And when I went to university, it was called junk DNA. Evolutionists, they use that as evidence that there is no God. They say that that's just bits of DNA that are no longer needed, that have built up over the years, you know, all the millennia of trial and error that goes into evolution. A whole new science called epigenetics came about. And now they've gone from 80% of it being junk, I think 90% they say actually does have a function. And they think that by the time they've looked at more cells, that will be up to 100%. And the evolutionists, they got very angry. They said that their experiments were biased, that the scientists were dishonest, when in fact, they designed their experiments simply to find out the function of the DNA. There was no agenda. They weren't looking to prove or disprove evolution. That just gave me the permission to be a scientist and to believe in the God that I'd always believed in. I see the wonder of God all around me, and I like nothing better than being outdoors and just looking at creation, looking at what is created. I feel very privileged to be part of a church that does challenge the congregation to actually explore these things and to educate themselves about these things. And I love the fact that my two children now, they're also interested in science. They talk about wanting a career in science and medicine. And the church, the school that they go to, they're not afraid to teach that difference and the alternative theory to evolution. You know, they're not afraid to teach creation. And I love the stories that come back when they, for example, when they go on school trips to the planetarium, and the lady there tells them about how many millions of years old the Earth is. And you know, the kids who go to the school are not afraid to put their hands up and say, excuse me, but we don't believe in that. And for me, I love that thought that in the future it will be acceptable to believe that, and that our children will have the evidence and the education and the knowledge that they need in order to be able to defend that position. So to my mind, as the science progresses and we use those techniques to investigate, the more you just cannot deny that he exists. God's hand is in it, and yeah, to me, it's just wonderful. It's a marvel.